What's going on, boys? And welcome to the 90th edition of the Chronicles of Podcast. And Jamie, I was trying to find it, and I think it's somewhere around here. Looking at it around there. But these right here are the Chronicles of George, Corey, and the Artist Cleo.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely like nothing we've ever done before. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Hit it!
Hey, honey bunny, it's Rivka Reyes.
This is Ron Wasserman, the nut that wrote Go-Go Power Rangers.
It's Boba Fett here.
This is Molly Rennick from Living Dead Girl.
It's WWE superstar legend Davey Boy Smith's daughter, Georgia Smith.
Hello, everyone. I'm George Corey. I wrote the Presidential Conversations and Presidential Conversations for Kids.
And we have been doing the podcast, The Social Contract, to bring the concepts and ideas, and we're going to talk about all that today and how it connects to us, and we're going to do that with
Tom and Jamie and the Chronicles of Podcast.
Thing that's going on, and yet the president at the time was just like, well, I had nothing to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as we bring you the Chronicles of George, Corey, and the Artist Cleo.
But we've mentioned it. I think we should get down to it for what everybody is here for. Shall we bring in that piece of resistance?
Bring it in.
Welcome to the Chronicles of George, Corey, and the Artist Cleo.
Hello, everyone. You're listening to the award-winning podcast, The Social Contract, now in its second season. I'm Tavia.
I'm George.
I'm Cleo.
And I'm Maya.
This is a conversation very different to any we have ever had before. Because, ladies and gents, this week we are talking American politics. George, Corey, and the Artist Cleo are authors. They have worked on the Presidential Conversations and the Presidential Conversations for Kids. Because it is important that not only adults understand what's going on in the world today, so do kids, because they will shape the future. Something we discuss in this. They are also the hosts of the award-winning Social Contract podcast, which you can check out wherever you get your podcast from right now. As I say, this is very different. I felt very out of my element going into this one, but I think this is a great conversation. This is absolutely amazing.
No, it truly is. This is something, like you said, that we've never done before. We were approached by a company down in New York to speak to George and to the Artist Cleo. George is the story writer and Cleo is the artist. Fun enough, it's in her name. So she designs all the pictures and whatnot in the books, Presidential Conversations and Presidential Conversations for Kids, which are available on Amazon right now. So please pick them up. And like Jamie said, obviously also have the Social Contract podcast. Award-winning, might I add. So this was an absolute pleasure to have them both on the podcast. And this is a very informative, in-depth, and great conversation. I can definitely tell you right now, I was not bored.
No.
Okay. No, not at all. It was fascinating. My face obviously gave off that, but I was literally just intrigued in listening to what they had to say. But Jamie!
Yes, sir.
Do you happen to have any final words at all?
Just a massive thank you to our glorious guests this week. Ladies and gents, you're going to enjoy this one, and you will find out whether we think The Rock will be a good president or not.
Absolutely. George and the Artist Cleo, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedules to sit and chat to us. We absolutely loved it, and we're very excited for people to hear this and to release it. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, interviewing this week, it's George, Corey, and the Artist Cleo. In New York, you've heard of us? Oh, are you real? Can you know? As I start
Honestly, Tom and Jamie, we feel the same way. We really do. Because I don't know how much you know about us, but we're lawyers, and we've come late to the artistic world, and so the fact that the way I like to put it is that we've touched people's lives is remarkable. Do you know? It really is. And it's like, I'm sure it's like, I'm not trying to equate what we've done to what you've accomplished, but it's really touching, that when I've met people and they said, do I know you? Did you write an op-ed to something obscure like the New Orleans Times-Picayune? We're like, yes, that was me. How the hell do you know that? And they're like, oh, I think I saw your podcast. It's like, what? I'm buying you a drink,
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I love it. It's incredible. This is genuine pleasure to have you both on here. So thank you so much for taking part. It's appreciated.
Likewise.
What we'll do is we'll get cracking. We'll get straight in, and then we can natter and chat away till the cows come home if they ever do. Perfect. I don't know why that's a phrase. What's going to happen is Jamie's going to do a really, really lovely introduction where he's going to lure you into a false sense of security. You're going to be like, guys, I quite feel quite safe here. This is lovely. Yes. And then we're going to absolutely bombard the living crap out of you with questions. How does that sound?
Fantastic.
Magnificent. Yes. Jamie.
Wonderful intro. Ladies and gentlemen, today we bring you not one but two wonderful guests, and guests unlike we've ever had on the show before. This week's guests have joined forces to bring knowledge to the American public, young and old, about politics and the country's leadership, with books like Presidential Conversations and Presidential Conversations for Kids, and their award-winning podcast, The Social Contract. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as we bring you the Chronicles of George, Corey, and the Artist Cleo.
Thank you. Thank you for including us.
Thank you for coming on. Oh, well, thank
you. Graciously appreciated. And like we said, massive shout out to begin with to Tatiana at Synergistic. Thank you so much for reaching out. Forgive my inquisitive nature as to make sure that we're all good and good to go here. So yeah, incredible. Guys, I suppose I should start off really with the most hard-hitting of all questions, which is, how was your pandemic season? I know it's kind of drifted away now, but yes. I mean, it's still every now and again someone's like positive again, for crying out loud.
We're very safe, and everyone that we knew was safe. So we had no tragedies. One of Cynthia's colleagues was got hit very early, went to the hospital, was actually on a ventilator, but he was fine. He's fit as a fiddle now, but that was the closest thing. And for me personally, I know this has been a worldwide tragedy, but it's been the best 3 years of my life. I mean, it's not since law school that Cynthia and I, the artist Cleo and I, sat together at the same dining room table for 3 years, spending time together. And like where we know so many other couples who really spent their lives in different parts of the house or room, or got tired of their children and each other. It was fantastic. So to me, it was very special. I don't know what Cleo says, but
I was ready to go back to work. No, it was to some extent it was a little bit of a gift to have so much time, with your, not only together but with yourself, not running around. And as you get back into it and get closer to normalcy, you realize how much you run around.
Yeah.
And so I think that's so I think that we're a little more introspective about how we want to spend our time. So yeah. I think that's one of the takeaways, and one of the things that came out of these projects, because as a result of kind of the goings on in the political world, that's how we wanted to do something after watching all the craziness, something positive, because we were hearing so many negative things. Okay, why, on the presidential conversations, how do we explain our reverence? I mean, we're inside the Beltway, so we pay more attention to politics than most folks. But is how can we explain to our nieces and nephews, which there's 14, and I think if we're going second generation, going on to 15 or 16, pretty close. But how do we explain to them why we think that the presidents are important, and knowing that most of them have flaws and have issues with them, and you wouldn't agree with them, but they have a characteristic that kind of puts them over the edges, that gives you that respect for the president or office. And so that's how we kind of came up with the idea of using the Christmas Carol type setting where we have, President Trump meeting with the presidents, and the president's trying to explain to him why, courage is good, why freedom is good. We'll let you decide whether he learned anything or not. But it came together like that. And I have to say, we can't put together a Christmas tree, like, those fake Christmas trees that you stick together because we both want to control the situation. But somehow we did this together. So it was one of those things where you really, you come away from very satisfied with being able to do something like that with somebody who you've spent your life with.
Amazing. We love hearing things like this because obviously it was the worst time in our generation that we know of. It was horrible. So many people, so many bad things happened to so many people. But one of the things we love when we do this show is hearing people that said, you know what? For me, I got to do this. I got to chase my passions. I got to spend time with kids. Hearing those light come out of the darkness.
Yes.
It's beautiful to hear.
Yes.
Guys, take us back to the start for you. What did young Master Corey and little Miss Cleo want to be when they were growing up? Should we say ladies first? Cleo, was it always like art and law, or was it something completely different, like a ballerina? I don't know.
Well, George always wanted to be president, but he can't because because he was a citizen.
I'm an immigrant.
But no, I think that I always enjoyed art, but it wasn't something that I focused on. I always focused on doing something that was more business oriented. So, but it's one of those things that keeps coming out at different times in my life. When I was in high school, I did a cartoon. Other times I've done different types of drawings for different organizations. So it's like one of those things that keeps popping out. And sometimes you don't take advantage of it because it's easier than other things. So it's like people say, well, you work hard and all that, and so you must love it. It's like, well, I'm not sure about that, but the art, I love it because it is something you make yourself, and it's just for you, and you can share it with others, but they can appreciate it. But really, you do it in a way for yourself. So I think I don't know. I don't think I ever wanted to be president. I thought about maybe a congressman or something, or a judge, maybe a judge. What about yourself?
Well, thank you for asking. I really just wanted to be in business, and I think though it works very well with the work that we've done, because even as financial legal regulators, that's really what we've been. We're regulatory attorneys, financial regulatory attorneys. Now that sounds very exciting, but even then, our jobs beyond the technical parts have really been about connecting people together, managing egos, getting people to talk to each other, getting people to stay in the room, not so much the negotiation so much, but getting people to work together. And I think that sort of sincerity and empathy is what has given us careers with our clients. I mean, you can get technical expertise with the law or finance from a lot of different places. But I think that we brought a lot of human touch, and that's very difficult with the egos, and keeping your egos out of it, and making sure that there's integrity in the process. Because we've all run into people where there have been great opportunities for all of us financially and with our practices, and when you realize they are not above board, then you have to walk away from it. And I think that we bring that integrity to understanding and loving politics because of the opportunity that people have in our highest offices. Your prime minister, our president, your cabinet, our cabinet. It's very important. So like Cleo said, the matter of the importance of character became very, very obvious to us in the last presidency. So we try to think of a way to explain the Trump administration to, as Cynthia said, or Cleo said, our nieces and nephews. And they, it all came from a pop Warhol type artwork that Cleo did. that had the vote symbol. I should have had that in front of me. I apologize. But it was something that she did during the 2015-2016 cycle. And it was, it just had vote the way the Obama O was, but it said vote, all in an O. And it was very Pop Warhol. And it inspired me. And when we thought, how do we explain this? And Cleo said, we had just crossed over Christmas. And in fact, we had been in London and had been to St. James and seen everything. So we were feeling very British winter. And we said, let's do Christmas Carol. And that was the mechanism for Trump meeting other presidents and trying to learn what was important and why character is important, and understanding that all we have together is the social contract, the Hobbesian social contract. But we wanted to make it very real and very person to person, that at the end of the day, as lawyers, we know that all the regulations, all the contracts, none of it really matters. Yes, you can get tripped up in litigation or dealing with the government, but that's not what it's about. It's a handshake. That's all civilization is a handshake deal. And we all depend on each other.
Well, that's why there's not, you keep hearing there's no rules or there's no law on this, because this the way you're supposed to behave is basically, and I'll come back to social contract to us means, civility. And that's how it kind of grew from the initial book to the younger book, which was to get kids excited.
Yes.
Because I remember, learning about, I thought actually history was one of the coolest things.
Yes.
And explains so much. And you have to take into account that and I don't think there's enough time spent today in understanding that history or the civility or why the social contract is there. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it.
Right.
And so that's how we came up with the name, The Social Contract, on the podcast.
Right.
But the podcast, George, what's really funny is that he asked some folks, it's like, well, should we try and get on podcasts to talk about the books and stuff like that and promote them? And folks told us, no, you should do your own.
Our publishers, that's a great idea, but no, you shouldn't go and get on podcasts. You'd be great. But no, we're going to do it ourselves. And but
now we're on a podcast.
But now we're on a podcast. Thank you so much. It's very exciting. I know. But the funny thing was, I'm 60, but I remember telling my mother, and she was like, what are you going to talk about every day for an hour? And so I mentioned that to the publishers, and they were like, oh, George, that's so funny. You're not going to talk at all. We're going to have a professional podcast. You're going to write the script. We're going to use your audiobook. You'll come on once a month to say hello. And I'm like, that's the right thing. I'm content. We let the professionals do it. And that was very funny. But it showed their faith in us to produce 2 professional years, 2 seasons of podcasts. That's just remarkable.
There's so much stuff that's happened even since in between the books. We've done a number of different things, just short stories, best way to put it. But so, for example, we're still living here with the January 6th.
Yes.
And one of the things that we did was we put it in the light of the Capitol and how the building felt on being attacked, as opposed to the people, and that you would attack something that stood for all the various democracy, for everything you could think of, and why would somebody try and trash and so I did a picture for that, and the police here picked it up and they put it on banners across the city in the various precincts. which had the picture that I did with how proud we were of them for supporting democracy and everything. So there's a bunch of other things, but things keep happening so fast.
Yes.
Like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court justice who passed away, we did something for her, but it's given us a voice to talk to people and tell them, why we believe in a number of these things, which we wouldn't have had before. And to tell you the truth, I'm not sure who would have listened anyway, except maybe George might have listened to me. I don't know.
I just. Oh, okay.
I was going to say the Capitol, the riots were.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments where you're like, is this actually happening right now? Is this a genuine thing that's going on? And yet the president at the time was just like, well, I had nothing to do. There's nothing to do.
No,
Exactly.
if you think back, I just remember being just stunned. And it was such a weird thing because you had these, you had terrible things going on. And then you did have some people going through carrying, pieces of furniture and stuff around. And the oddest thing, they were doing it within the velvet ropes that you're supposed to be on a tour. So they were not like, this is not the ones that were the worst part, but some of them were like taking like a podium out, but they weren't walking up against or pushing down other stuff. They were walking within the ropes. But I mean, what kind I don't even understand it. It's like we just don't have the thought process of, if police here tell you to move back or to, when you see them pushing up against the bicycle racks, whatever they are. And I've never seen people just go completely against that and then run over them. It's so against your upbringing and your view of community. So anyway, so all those things are things that we want to push up against and show positivity and not just negativity. And it's really the positive part of it that we want to take people to take away, and that we want our families and nieces and nephews, and that's why we did it.
Let me jump in, Tom. That when we met the publisher and we had the manuscript completed, and we met them June of 2020. So it was a very short, narrow window for them to publish it by Election Day, which was November of 2020. They said they'd never worked with anybody like that. So we worked together in a collaboration every day to get it done. But the reason they really liked the manuscript is that it wasn't ridiculing Trump like on Saturday Night Live, which was very funny. We love those too. It wasn't abusive. It wasn't snarky. That it was very important to us, not to appeal to everybody, but to show respect for the office of the presidency. The office of the prime minister. The person who's there has a higher calling, or should have a higher calling. And we said, this is what we're supporting, right? We wanted to show this person, their character really matters. It's not just another elected position. We all follow that person. We follow your prime minister. We follow the presidency.
We were there the weekend when the Queen was laying in state, what we'd call laying in state.
Yes.
We were right across. We're there for a conference. We were staying across the bridge from where Westminster was, so we could see people who were lining up in the middle of the night. And it's like whether you believe in royals or don't, the person who embodied that, the service, that she did for so many years. And
yes.
You've heard people talk about her going to these, like a library opening or a park opening. And just like, she really believed in that. And that service is also kind of what's bound up in this whole social contract, is how do we help and service others, which makes us all better. At the end of the day, which it sounds, I guess, goofy, but anyway, that's and you really, I don't think I'd ever understood exactly that about her before all of that came out, because we were there. You couldn't turn the television on without seeing all of that, right? And so it was, and how people felt about it. But anyway.
It's crazy.
So we should let you guys say something.
Yeah, it was deeply moving. It really was deeply moving for us. I mean, we went and laid flowers. We didn't stand in line because of our conference, and we had other responsibilities to go and see the Queen in state. But it was deeply, deeply moving. And from our personal backgrounds, from Cynthia's work of study, she had really had done her master's thesis on the British colonial empire, especially in the Middle East.
It was just college.
But it really educated me. My family being from Egypt and really growing up in the under the British rule, so we had a very strong affinity for Britain. We were, in fact, engaged at the British Museum when we were in our first year of law school. We went to our engagement lunch at the Savoy, all on my mother's credit card. Thank her very much. And it was spectacular.
No, the best
so
thing
to us, London is the city of love, So
okay.
All right, I'm sorry, we're talking about the social contract, but to me, it going back to the Queen, I mean, that's the sort of duty to self and country that we've lost sight of in a world where people are more thinking about themselves, and so that really struck us, especially on top of writing these books, that this is what we want to celebrate.
Right. And this is a way that whether you're here or you're in London or Europe, you can understand the concepts,
yes.
Right, and why and you might not know all the stories, so it might be actually more interesting,
yes.
in the UK on some of the
Yes.
little known tidbits about some of the presidents. But it's the same. Everybody has the same thought process.
Everyone does. Yeah, we thought the same too. That
I think that my favorite about your mother was that she back in the day,
yes.
when the AT&T called, the phone company called his mother and said, there's a crazy person running around in Europe with your phone number, and he goes, no, that's my son, because he's
I had her credit card essentially, so.
because he was calling me, because she was like, she didn't know what to be more annoyed about, whether that was the amount of money he was spending or the fact that he wasn't calling her.
Plus, I bought beautiful things. I bought beautiful things at the Harrods mid-year sale. I'm sorry. Anyway, so, but we
Let them ask their questions.
I apologize. Please go ahead, Jimmy.
No, it's all good. I'm really intrigued by, and we will get to the social contracts and new books, and I promise you, right? American politics really confuses me sometimes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I feel that Trump only took office so he could then turn around and go, I was president for 4 years. I was president for 4 years, yeah.
That's right.
Because he did absolutely nothing.
That's
I
right.
mean, I wouldn't blame you for the fact that your book between 2017 and 2021 had nothing in it. But obviously, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's an Austrian bodybuilding actor, was the governor of California. Like, what the hell?
I know, but he actually did a very good job. He actually worked very well with the opposite party in his legislature, and it was a success. So strangely enough, right?
Yeah, I actually personally don't think that Trump ever wanted to be president.
No.
I think it was a marketing effort so that he could get more popular. So I do believe what he did do during the period of time was that he built on his or tried to build on his popularity. Whether he did or not, you can decide for yourself. But he's just he certainly does not have a legislative agenda. And right now we're sitting here between Trump and DeSantis, and whether that ever occurs or not, who knows? But everybody's talking about it. But the difference is that Trump really didn't do that much, right? DeSantis actually is implementing the things that Trump supposedly wanted. So it's like you got to be careful what's more dangerous here. But it's it has just kind of gone off the rails. Obama was his tagline was "No drama, Obama," and so there was like no drama. So nothing. You think nothing happened? A lot of things did, but it just wasn't like this at this fever pitch So so I just think that I think he surprised himself, and so that's why I don't think he had any real didn't have an agenda, didn't have didn't know what he wanted, so he was trying to satisfy enough people to stay there.
Financially, he did wreck our country by having a huge tax cut for the wealthy, and
Yes.
that really has put us in a serious bind. Outside of President Bush W. Taking us to war for so many years and spending trillions, Trump gave away as many trillions in one stroke of a pen. And that's really put the U.S. in a serious position. And people say, well, we can print money. It's not a problem. We'll just borrow the future. But it's a very serious matter,
And to put us where we are today, we're sitting here, and God forbid that we don't go over the cliff with this debt ceiling, which is, I think that the whole world's is this full faith and credit and the strength, and there's nothing in the economy that would require this.
No.
That would make us be at this precipice that we can't do it, and that's even more disgusting because we're putting ourselves we put ourselves through all of this. This is all self-generated, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
At least when the UK and Great Britain lost the prominence of the sterling after World War I and World War II, the loss of the colonies, and they had to grow back to their original kingdom. At least in that case, it wasn't self-inflicted. All the malaise in the 70s, everything that happened was because Great Britain took it upon itself. I'm sorry,
You're telling them about their history.
I'm telling them about their history. I know it's close to Manchester. I apologize, but it means a lot to me that Great Britain lost its prominence, and it's still a great nation, obviously, because Great Britain saved the world twice. And you did it on your own dollar. You lost. The UK lost its prominence because it had to fight off Germany twice. This is different. We went into an unnecessary war, costing trillions and blood and treasure, and now Trump did it again with just a stroke of a pen, far more than anything else. So as Cynthia says, it's self-inflicted, and we don't have saving the Western world twice to show for it. So, and we can see.
Well, we helped.
Yes, the U.S. helped. Yes, the U.S. helped. I'm not saying that, but
what's really more concerned because today is, I remember during the period of time we were waiting for the vote to come in for the president, whether it was Trump or Biden, and it's like, okay, have we saved ourselves?
Yes,
right. And it was like that. I think it was like 5 or 6 days, and you were just holding your breath. I have never seen anybody just erupt in joy when the people came out. We live in a pretty quiet neighborhood or whatever. It came out of their houses, and there was screaming and yelling, and in the cities they were going crazy
all over the country.
And it's just like we saved ourselves, and now we're back and in it again. And we're like, I don't know. It's outrageous that you've got somebody who didn't know whether they wanted to be there in the first place, didn't really do anything, and you had and then you had Biden, who, whether you like him or not, he's doing things. He's actually governing. We actually have infrastructure being taken care of, or trying to be taken care of. Climate change, all these things. One of the things we were listening last night is that none of the presidential candidates on the Republican side today have anything to say about climate change.
Nothing.
No, I mean, it's like it's like the most important question that any of us can answer right now, and they just don't even talk about it. So
the thing that got me with Trump's presidency is
yes,
there was diehard haters of this man. Let's be honest.
Yes.
On the opposite side of that, there was diehard lovers of this man. Completely wanted him to be president until the end of time. What do you guys think it was about him and his presidency that caused such a divide?
I'm not sure that I other than when you look at him against DeSantis, the Florida governor.
Yeah.
He does have charm. I mean, he is somebody that can basically really talk to a room and get them to get behind him. And that's all I can think of is he actually does, whether you like him or not, he has a personality, where this other guy doesn't have anything. And so I think that kind of mentality it brings you closer, more closely to I don't know, they call it a cult now. That and it's even so much not him. I think it's how much they always say when they're trying to do the libs. They're trying to
I see.
What's the statement? Anyway, they're against others rather than for him. But I think it's that charisma. He has a little bit of that charisma, which is unfortunate when you see it in the wrong person's hands.
I think the grievance politics that he touched on, it was the same grievance politics that cost you EU membership. Yes, with Brexit, nobody expected that would happen, and nobody expected that Trump would win either. But it's the same last gasp of, and I hate to sound it's the last gasp of a dying viewpoint, you know, and we read quite a lot about this because we keep trying to write about the solution, that Trump made it okay to be openly racist, anti-Semitic, anti-Islam, anti-education, anti-history, you know. And the closed-mindedness is very frightening. It really is. And for the first time, we understood why my mother, for example, my family is so risk-averse, having fled Egypt after Abdel Nasser took over, having fled Beirut after the Arab-Israeli conflict took over, and losing all their equity twice over. You all of a sudden understand, wow, if the Handmaid's Tale really is created here, do we lose our livelihood, our equity, everything? We move to Canada, where my family is. And like my grandparents, who had a very successful business in Egypt, do we live upstairs from a pizza place in a university town, you know, and maintain your dignity while living this way? It's very difficult. So we had an issue. One of the first things we wrote about after publishing the first book was that at that moment when Biden won, I had a real problem because my parents are upper middle class professionals, but they only cared about their pension funds essentially, and they were willing to vote for Trump to protect their pension funds the first time and then the second time. And it was so dark and offensive, but I thought it's the perfect example of, in the US, we talk about the crazy uncle at the Christmas dinner, the Thanksgiving Day dinner, right? But if it's somebody in your family, in the American family, in your immediate family, your father, whom you love and respect very much, if it's your neighbor, if it's 40% of the electorate and 70 million vote for him twice, what do you do with those people, right? And our only conclusion was that we had to go back to love. That, like in the family, I had to extrapolate with my father. It's like you can't reject, you can't vilify, you can't ignore, you can't shut out. You have to talk to them, even if it's impossible to change their minds. You just have to stand with them, not vote with them, not shut them up. Just, we have to, on our side, I felt like the only way to get through it is to forgive, focus on love, and I'm not blowing sunshine, you know. I found it was the
Well, no,
only
you're-
solution, you know,
Because your father wrote a letter that really
to all the kids, 6 kids.
that talked about the what had been going on under the Black Lives Matter and how terrible it was that they had destroyed property, and how it was just that we have to guard ourselves, and God forbid, protect ourselves with guns and things like this. And it was just such off the rails from where we are, that and you had to, as George said, you have to take into account the fact that even if you can't agree with this person, you've got to keep them. You have to keep talking to them. You have to keep the communication going, which I think is what's happened.
That's what's happened, right?
And the other thing I think that people, the responsibility. Trump really gives people the ability not to be the victims. That this isn't something, if you haven't succeeded in life, it's because the government's put you down, or you haven't gotten the right opportunities, or opportunities were taken by others. Affirmative action, things like that. He gives people the right to feel that way, and it's a lot easier to feel that way than actually get out and do stuff.
That's right.
And improve your communities and do better, and communicate with others, because all that is takes action, and it's hard work. So it's those are some of the things I would say.
And we wrote about it. My dad sent the letter, and I said, "You're screwed, man, because we're writers now." Cynthia drew about it. I wrote a chapter, and we published it with the publisher as a short story. They thought it was moving and brilliant. I sent it to my father, and I said, "You sent me a letter. I just wrote a book of political satire. I just made you into a chapter." And he was enormously touched. It doesn't mean that he didn't vote for Trump last time. He did. But like everybody else in the American family, in the British family, with all the Brexit voters, we can't get rid of them. We can't re-educate them. All we can do is keep them close, and show by example that this is the way that we want to live our lives, and maybe they'll see for themselves that they can get rid of all of that and still be themselves. So not to be Pollyannish, but I decided at that moment, after struggling with it, that we had to go back to love, family love, and forgiveness. It's not as sexy an answer as "shut them out," but it's the only long-term solution. Anyway, excuse me for going on about that.
No.
This is difficult stuff,
It is. I was going to say, we will talk about the books in shortly, but one thing people listening to this, and one thing I can tell myself, is watching you two talk, you're very passionate about politics and the presidency and stuff like that. Yeah. Were you ever interested in ever getting involved in politics yourself, Ivy, or are you just like, I'm going to sit back and observe? That's enough for me.
No, well, we've thought about it, but it is something that it's not something that's in our families. So that's, I think you have to take a leap to do it. I think if we were to ever do anything, we would do it in the communities. But what we did is we've taken the opposite. We've worked with a lot of nonprofits, sure. and that's the way we've kind of contributed, which I think is just the other side of politics, because you're trying to influence politics, right? So we've worked with a group that provides food for folks that are struggling, and provides other types of support for them to get back on their feet. And then we also have worked with some museums that are more art oriented, or are design oriented. So it's like, how should you be living your lives or using your resources and that type of thing. So it's we've come at it from that direction, while needing to also work for a living. So it's been something we can coordinate, but folks have asked George to run for things, and it hasn't come to the right time.
No, it's very difficult. it's difficult because I was appointed to the police chiefs board, so civilian board, in 2010, and I was on it for 4 years, and we've stayed on the DC police board ever since. And it's a service, it's a citizens focused service that we've done ever since. And like Cynthia said, we've been involved in people's lives. We've been able to contribute financially, but also with our times and with our legal backgrounds. So that's been very special. But yes, I do get asked, especially being so bombastic, if I would, but I was appointed to a zoning commission for a short period of time. And really, it wasn't just that you had to fight for people about where the new roads would go and would you put a traffic light here or whatever else, because people were virulent about things like that. I was shocked at how these educated upper middle class people were virulent about, no, it should go here and this parking lot should be like asphalted over. It was like, people, I only care about public safety and the ability to vote. You know what I mean? And education. You know, I could care less about the rest of it. And you're being really rude to each other and to us. You know, so I knew it was never we really like being being behind the people who are up front. You know. But thank you for asking. I know people have asked us a number of times, but we're happy with our social engagement. The books have really been a way, and not to circle back to that, but it's been an unusual way that we've been able to touch people. You know, it's been very special. Influencers, right? Not like you, but
No.
You should. I don't know if you're football fans, but you should ask Ron Rivera why he didn't play Heineke for the whole season last season and actually traded for Wentz.
Yes,
but yeah, I don't know if you are Commanders. Do you follow football NFL? No. Okay, football. But yeah, okay.
No, we actually watch.
We gotta have again. You either watch football or you watch politics or you follow politics.
Okay.
No, we're more tennis folks. So
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough. I'm a huge NFL. I have been for years.
You are.
Yeah, and I was just. It doesn't matter.
But we have. I think you're not going to take this very well. The most we know about football is through Ted Lasso.
Your football, yes.
Your football.
Oh, yeah, that's a great show.
Football. Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm sure somebody's told you look like one of the guys.
You look like Beard.
You look like Beard.
Do I?
Yes.
Yes, you have got. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you've got to watch.
I love Coach Beard. He's great.
Coach Beard is great. He's the best. I think he's the best character.
I'll move on from football then. Sorry about that.
No problem.
How was the New Orleans Jazz Festival, by the way?
It was fantastic. We found out that we've attended for 20 years outside of those 3 years of COVID. So wow. It's been amazing. And between that and I really recommend that over Mardi Gras any day. But there's also something called the French Quarter Festival, which is the same groups, and they're out on the riverbank. And you can walk to it because we have a place in New Orleans. It's right in the French Quarter. And it's fantastic. So we went to essentially all 15 days of music this year, last year, and then pre-COVID, we did the same thing for years. And it's all types of music. Like this year, Lizzo played, Ed Sheeran played. You know, it's so many different groups, as well as jazz and blues and gospel and American country. It's just very exciting. I think.
So you can see so much in such a short period. You can go see 4 major acts in like one day, and they're all different. And that's not even, and that could be like one stage. If you want to watch jazz or blues or gospel, and gospel, is just incredible what these people do.
The passion is unbelievable.
So we enjoy all of it. It's a great time. It is getting quite crowded, but New Orleans is a place that just imbues that kind of musicality, in every day, and especially during that season. It's not just even the festival; it's all around town, and the musicians, I think, really enjoy going to it as much as everybody else, because they're seeing the folks that they're building off of and creating from. So it's anyway, it's a great event.
One of the first things we did after getting a place there about 20 months ago is that we met the people at the New Orleans Jazz Museum, which is state run, and we became friends with them. And they have a free concert every Tuesday in the courtyard. It's remarkable. We've gotten to know a lot of people through them, and we got to know the people of the jazz radio station there, WWOZ, not to put on a call for them, but we've met so many amazing people. And even though we're very polite, we know that you don't want to be Yankees, you don't want to come down, you don't want to be like the big people from like going from London to like Manchester or York and then throwing your weight around or something. We're very polite. We met people. We were behind the scenes. We contributed, and we gave time. Not just money, but we gave them time to help them put on galas or help reach out to people. Cynthia's contributed to go on the radio as well, to put together like music with a lot of women jazz musicians, which is very cool. And we've got to meet some amazing musicians along the way. So it's really been extraordinary. I don't mean to go on about it, but it's really beautiful. But it's very similar to how we've tried to go into the life of that sort of nonprofit and cultural world here in DC as well. It's very special. And the politics in New Orleans are so different than even in Washington,
We're definitely
D.C.
going to stay out of that. We're going to stay out of
Definitely going to stay
Okay.
out of that. They are so conservative. It's amazing. When you're in D.C., you're like in a very progressive liberal bubble. There are no Trump signs, for example. You go to New Orleans and all your neighbors have guns, and they all have Trump stickers, and they love to tease you about Brandon. And they're like, "Are you watching conservative TV? Are you listening to conservative radio?" And we're like, "No, we're not. You've seen my published works. Here's the books." And they're like, "This is very nice. Thank you very much." But you never talk to them about it, So it's fascinating. It really is. It's good to get out of our bubble as well. It's affected the way we wrote the second, and not to circle back to the book, but I mean, having been there and then working on the second book, the kids' book, it really had me think about how to approach those people as well and make the book not generic, but appeal to different people, because it was in our face all the time,
Yeah.
So it was interesting. Anyhow, so we're having a nice dual life there and here.
With the books though, why did you choose 10 and 6? Is that because the school years differ over there, or is it?
Oh, no. The reason is because the first book was actually written for young adults, but the publishers liked it so much they published it as an adult book, a book for from not from like 15 to 17, but for 24 to 64, which they said was a huge honor, and we just went with it. The original book was actually going to be for 5-year-olds, and I sent them the sketchbook, and they were like, "We're going to have a kids book?" And I said, "Yes." So I decided that it was very difficult to go straight to 5-year-olds because there's a lot of content for kids who are really who they are, and that's why the second book with this pair, Georgie and Gigi, are 10-year-olds. They're second graders. They know who they are. They're cool. They have their own opinions. And
you can talk to them, and even if they don't get everything, they're more aware. And it was just a matter of, we wanted to do it for a younger audience, because that was what it was intended for. But the first one turned out to be a little bit too much. And so that, everybody, we know, adults, teenagers, whatever, have read it. So it's for everybody. So it's the younger one, having them interact in the story I think the characters is what made it a way of explaining things without one being boring. And one of the things that has happened is that a lot of our friends, obviously, they got in the book, and their kids read to them at night, and some of them they'll tell us when they've chosen that they want to listen to that book again, or our book, and so it's like really that's really cool. Cool. Anyway, it's but it was a way of a way of still getting at that audience, and I think, like George said, we're trying to do one that's even younger, but it's honestly it's hard to get those concepts into something that the younger folks want to listen to.
Well, I'll tell you that the reason I picked 10-year-olds is I became politically aware when I was 9. I followed that election. That was 1972. That was Nixon and McGovern, but I knew what it was. I followed it. I explained it to kids at school, and I was aware of the next election with Jerry Ford. So to me, politics had just always been in my life. So I knew that I could talk to kids at that age. The third book is for 6-year-olds.
You have to tell them how you got in trouble when you were.
I went in 1976. I was 13. And I was putting up signs for Jerry Ford, and he lost. And in my Catholic school, I wrote Carter sucks peanuts on all the walls. And the nun, did what the nuns do. They whack you with a ruler, the ruler, and then sent me to the principal, who was really cool. He was a former Jesuit priest, and we would sit and have political discussions. And a lot of those discussions have come out in the books, again, about the social contract, where in the U.S.
What kid in that grade is writing that on the
stick
on
to
the
the
wall.
focus, stick to focus. I know it was very important. But the 6-year-olds, the reason I wrote it for 6-year-olds and not like 4-year-olds is because you can't really give them really complex introspection. And the one thing that the publishers always cut me back on is one volume, because I always give them like twice as many words as that they expect. And second of all, they're like, George, we really thought when we gave them this manuscript for the second book, they're like, we thought it was just going to be like a short rehash of the first book with the same stories, but it was totally different. I sent them like the first book they whittled down from like 25 to, and it's not their word counters, but they wanted to make it manageable. The second book, I gave them like 35,000 words with so many, and they were like, no, cut this back in half. We don't want to like kill them. And we did that. And the third book, I started to write it, and they're like, George, they're 4-year-olds. I said, we can't write to 4-year-olds. I don't want it to be like, oh, look at the happy president. That you have to be able to talk to them, and you have to respect kids. 5-year-olds will get it, but 6-year-olds in first grade, they will get the concepts. And I've talked to so many like 5 or 6-year-olds and say, hey, do you follow, like I'm at the store, I'm like, do you follow politics? And they're like, yeah. And then we'll talk about this, and I'll add it to the book, They're like, they're really cool.
They're not going to understand that you might be long-winded.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little long-winded, right?
You're all good.
I will tell you, Cleo touched on this, but in the second book, as well as having like a magical skateboard, which brought me back to like my first skateboard, which was like a skinny banana. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the skateboard was really cool. Having that as a mechanism was really cool, so they could go back. But the idea of not just having like the president in the first book visited by other presidents and they just talk. In the second book, we wanted the kids to interact. That way, young kids who are reading it can say, oh, look, I was on the boat with George Washington, and I used my iPhone to help guide the boat across the Delaware River to find, with my infrared technology and with my maps, which did not exist in 1772, but I have NASA level maps. And then writing the most important document with Abraham Lincoln, the Gettysburg Address, where they all sat down together side by side and they're like hashing it out and brainstorming. And so kids can say, I get these concepts, I get why they're important, but I could contribute to it, And I thought that was really important. And the publishers really loved that too. They were really touched by that as well. And they took out all the sappy parts that I put in. So
it's a shame you couldn't be like, Lincoln, don't go to that theater.
Yeah. It's so cool.
Let's be honest, 90% of the presidents have been, shall we say, of the older generation.
Yes.
Are you hoping with getting more people interested in politics at a younger age to maybe see a younger person in office and see what they could bring to the country?
Absolutely. It's a little shocking when you see right now the G7's going on and you see all the leaders and you see
So
Biden,
young.
and you see they're so young, and then you've got Biden.
It's like their dad.
Right, at least their dad.
I know.
Their grandpa.
At least their dad.
Yeah, but I do think that one of the good things that is going to come out of all of this is people have learned a huge amount about why we've got certain things structured. Why do we have three branches? Why are they co-equal? Why does one have the purse and the other has the judicial determination? The amount of education that's
Civic
going
education.
on, and because it has to, I think really has brought out the college age kids and and some of the Gen Z, whatever you want to call them. I think they're what are they, Ys or whatever. So all of those people who I think glided along thinking democracy and the way we live and the rights we have, and that all just is permanent. And I think that this has shaken everybody a bit, including the people who the college age kids who like, well, we want to live in I hope we want to live in a democracy, so we've got to participate. So I absolutely believe that this has really woken people up in the right way, to meaning that you have to participate, whether it's being somebody in office or somebody who is supporting somebody in office. I think we were a little sleepwalking with some of this, and it's got to be a much more active participation.
And at all levels. The thing that people have understood is that from school boards all the way up to city councils, all the way up to greater office, that participation is very important, especially at the local level. And so where people in the past would never have gotten involved, or they thought somebody else will do it, somebody else will be a county clerk, somebody else will be on the school board. Now they see how fraught it is and how pernicious the worst of us have gotten into local politics. And now people are standing up all over the country, not just for our higher elected officials, our official positions, but also at the local level. And I think that takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of dedication. So we give a lot of support for that.
Yeah. We still have a lot of hope that that's what's going to bring us out of this, because we're living in a really kind of fraught time, and with people who are doing things for hateful reasons, and they want they want to throw us back to the 1950s or 60s or whatever you want to say. But the fact is, I think that's showing why that's not where the society is going to go. And this is hopefully the last gasp, so that we really are a multicultural society and can show people how everybody can live together. And so we've got to go through this to get to that end, and that people will be much better educated as a result of what we've been through. But it's not a whole lot of fun, right? Going through some of this.
But there's a wide bench of young people that we had not seen before. I mean, if it wasn't for Trump running again in 2020, Biden would not have come back. If Hillary had won, she would have been the last of that establishment old guard. There are so many youngs and young progressives that we support, that we believe in, who are filling the ranks locally as well as in Congress, and we have
pushing us forward,
and they're not just there's so much activity now. They're not just backbenchers, as you would say. They are stepping to the forefront. There's a 27-year-old man who was elected, a gay man from a predominantly white community in Western Florida, which is very exciting. There's a huge bench. Plus, for running for even the presidency, we have people like Pete Buttigieg, who's very young, in his early 40s, gay. People I think of him as conservative in the sense that, he's brought back religion to the Liberal Party. He's married. He has children. He believes in those things. He's a veteran. He would be running for president like he did before if we weren't in such, like Cynthia says, an upside down time. Biden would not have run. He would have stayed out. We have a lot of young, exciting people who are going to step up, and they're needed. But right now, the old guns are needed. It's like,
I don't. As far as Biden Trump type race, not that we don't want to go through that again, but clearly, I think that a counteract or a reaction to Trump is a Biden who is, gets things done. He's he has the characteristics that we attribute to the anti-Trump. So
absolutely,
anyway.
He looks great in aviators.
Yeah,
he's and the bad Brandon memes are badass. I love that. It's like, yeah, he's like 82 years old, but he's a badass.
We did a just as a lark a video with him and Kamala. That's that we did just as something fun.
Amazing. So obviously we've touched on the short stories, the books,
yes.
There's some incredible things, but you have your phenomenal award-winning podcast, The Social Contract.
Yes.
So is the podcast basically just an audio version of the books?
No, it's not. It includes the audio version and the actor who did the voices, which is he's incredible, Stephen DeRosa. But what we tried to do is build around it, which was and this was we all got together and kind of brainstormed on how we would do it. But so, for example, on the first year, one of the things we did was we interviewed people around town that had a relationship to the story. And just coming back to the January 6th, we had the executive director of the building museum at the in town, and that's one of the largest buildings or indoor spaces in the city. So we talked about kind of what some of that grandeur, how that attributes to some of the feelings of democracy and that type of thing within the town, and then also had one of the executive directors of the Foundation for the Police, who was involved in a number of his constituencies, were a part of the January 6th. So it's trying to build on that story and almost bring it into today. And that's just one of them. We had several people come in and talk about their connection. So that's so that, and then in addition to Stephen, we've also had for this year a younger actress who voices some of it. So we try and build on it. The other piece of it is the art, which is harder to do on podcasts, as you can imagine. But
it's on the website. All the content is there, the transcripts, the art. It's really beautiful.
But we try and add that into why the particular, because the word art was part of the first book, was trying to explain what those words meant. So once you explain that, then people can go look at it. So it's a lot of different pieces to it. And it's not, it's the book is kind of the core that we jump off of.
And we explain that as well. So like with the word art, explaining why bravery was a word that Cynthia wanted to write to paint on a skateboard, and why truth was important to one president or the other, that characteristic, so that the listeners or the readers will understand firsthand when they think of this. They'll think of this president, they'll think of this characteristic, and they'll have this really cool piece of art that they can look at, print out, put on a wall. We put them on keychains, it's fun stuff.
I love the concept of it. I listened to the Capitol burning one because obviously Tavia. Yeah, it was great. I love the way you've. Obviously, Tavia Gilbert is the presenter, isn't she?
Yes,
and then
she's remarkable.
It's the way that she presents the podcast. You started your story, and then they split the story in half. Obviously, you had the interview, and then the story comes back on, and obviously Stephen doing the voice and stuff. It's really well done, really well done. I really enjoyed it.
It's very moving too. The whole idea of the Capitol saying, "How could you do this to me after I've stood up for you all these years?" I thought it was very moving, and Cleo came up with that concept, and really what happens is that Cleo comes up with the concept and I can execute it. And that's really how it's worked, that there's never a sense of writer's block for either of us, that we think of a concept. Usually Cleo thinks of the concept. She thinks of it as something to sketch and sets it up. And I find that with a little direction, a little push, I do the research for what my publisher calls golden nuggets, really interesting things about the presidents, that nobody would have known, like the coconut for President Kennedy that he wrote "Save Us," on it, or that he jumped into the water and bit down on the life jacket of the man that had broken his back and swam 4 miles to an island. That's really amazing. These are stories that I remembered from being 6 or 7 and doing book reports, and they showed up in the book years later. But once I have the concept, the words just come. And the same with the art. The art just comes. We're never struggling over it.
So I think the best description, the history with a little bit of a wink, and it's right. And just the fact that you can take that in and learn various things within a half hour. And as you're driving to work again, you can pop that in and listen to it. It's something to take away, and it's not all the noise from everywhere else. Anyway, so that's kind of the thought behind it.
The publishers told us that on their demographics about who listens and when they listen, apparently people listen to the short podcasts when they're walking. So if they'll go out to exercise, they'll listen to our podcast, because it's it's only once a month, but it's also 30 minutes. So they're not going to kill themselves. They're like, oh, okay, that's good. And then I'll come back, So, but that's a very interesting demographic note, isn't it? I thought that was interesting,
Well, it's better than the magazines on the potty or something.
It's better than the magazines on the potty, right? It's like the line, you can read Dostoevsky in the bathroom, but you can't finish him,
I think for us it'd be like when Forrest Gump goes for a walk,
Oh, yes, exactly. Exactly. There's a treasure, Tom Hanks.
So you say you've done season 2 based around the second book. Is there plans for a season 3?
Oh, yes, yeah. It was the third book, which is about a third written now. It's Georgie and Gigi, the same characters, but they're in the first grade, and they are there's also a very feisty young nun who also yells at them and threatens them with the rulers, which I love because I went to Catholic schools, and they're doing something, and they get fallen back. Like in the first chapter, they are playing a Mario Brothers video game, and they fall back in time, and they meet Harriet Tubman, who was a Civil War, a black woman slave who ran away and turned out to be a spy for Lincoln. So that was very exciting.
Don't give it away.
Oh yeah, and
She did the Underground Railroad.
Underground Railroad, right?
Which allowed people to filter into the north, and she did it. I mean, an incredible hero in history.
But we made it.
There's more to it, but we can't say anymore.
Oh, but they made it fun. We had to find a mechanism to make it fun. So and we're doing a. I also suggested that we don't just do it just the presidents. We also do it by location. So in the fourth episode that I've just finished, they're all on a paddle boat. They're all on sea kayaks in the Potomac, and there's two kids that have just moved into their class, Antoine and Antoinette from New Orleans, and they fall through a tributary, meet a young Thomas Jefferson when he buys a third of the country in the Louisiana Purchase. So you get to talk about the Napoleonic Wars and what happened. I've sketched out where we do.
The publishers are going to be annoyed with us. We can't tell you anymore.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, but it's going to be like a tour of America, So it's not just a location, and you get to introduce younger characters. If that'll publish by the end of the year, it'll be in time for the third season. And I think that they're very excited that the numbers keep going up, and they didn't expect it, because it's not like we're on television. It's not like we're pundits. We're journalists. We're in that area. We're known in our narrow area of regulatory, legal, and this to create a brand, and in political satire, which the publishers were really surprised by. This is the first book of political satire that they had done, and to find that within a year of the first book that they didn't think would ever grow enough, but we did enough online. We encouraged enough online, and we had so many updates, and we encouraged the publisher. They were inspired to publish short stories, which created more traffic. They came up with doing a music video, which created more traffic. And the first book went into a paperback form, which apparently is a huge honor. We didn't even understand. And from that, a few months later, I said, "Hey, what about podcasts?" They're like, "Yes, we'll do it." And then my saying, "Here are my sketches from when I was originally going to do this," because I had a conversation with my 7-year-old niece, and she said, "Do it like this." And they're like, "We can have a kid's book." And now we're in the second year, and there'll be I believe a third year with the books. But the brand.
I think the fun thing is that with the book with Stephen voicing everybody and
Stephen
really bringing them to life. If you don't think of it, listen to anything else, the songs that keep coming up are just
That's why I didn't read the audiobook like I was supposed to, is because in like every short story and in the two books, I have like a singing number, right? Because in my heart, what I really always wanted to be was a lounge act, and not like a fancy one, like singing at the Ritz at the Blue Room after, I'm like thinking like at the Manchester Hojos, by the airport, Holiday Inn by the airport, in a lounge suit, So I always had a lounge act in like every story.
But anyway, we've had a lot of fun.
I can't sing. That's why Stephen's done it.
Neither one of us can.
Yeah, but but they tell us that with the sales, it's important that that we may have touched 10,000 people. And if you think that perhaps if half of those are children, and we go out and we do book readings, we do it at police stations, not for the police, but they have kids programs, with what we call Title I students who are like from poor areas, and we sketch with them, we read them the stories, they love it. You touch people's lives like this, and certain stories
that's really helps influence and keeping up the hope.
Yes, exactly. I mean, so if all we've done,
he looks bored.
I apologize. I'm very sorry, but really, I I really feel that, but really, Tom, that if you touched people's lives and then all of a bunch of 9-year-olds who become politically aware or civically aware, like Cynthia said, they may not love politics, but they understand civics more, and they know that they can be like a conservation president by turning the lights off or turning the water off or keeping the refrigerator closed, or they know not to take the biggest piece of cake on the table because that breaks the social contract. We all have to be nice to each other. Then we've won. So
Yeah, absolutely.
totally unexpected that two lawyers during COVID want to speak to their nieces and nephews and came up with things that have touched people's lives. It may not be huge, but it's important to us. So
absolutely.
I know it's a little Pollyannish, but it's that's what gives us the passion to keep going.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're award winning now as well.
Yes, I'll tell you something very funny. We won 2 awards, and one of them is for the actual is for the podcast, for the mechanics, the engineering, and one was for the history. And I'll tell you the funniest thing: mothers really know how to keep you, cut you down to size or keep your feet on the ground. Because I said, "So, Mama, you saw that we won 2 awards," and she goes, "No. You won 1 award for writing. That's the history. The podcast engineers won the other award. You only won 1 award." And it was like, oh, that was beautiful. I can't wait to tell Cleo that. She will laugh and laugh because it was exactly right. It's nothing like your mother to keep you. You're maybe 60, but your mother's like, no. Award, buddy.
It's amazing. Just going back, talking about book 2 and the future of book 3, from what you're saying about them. When you were talking about them and what the message you're trying to get across and everything, all I could think of in my head was animation. This is perfect animation, especially to show in schools and things like that. That would be absolutely perfect.
It is, and our publishers have really good connections with Nickelodeon and with other sites, and they've pursued this. I think it's a very tough space to break into, but they're very excited that as the brand grows or people get to know about it, that these stories, since they're so positive, they're not negative, they're not snarky, and they're about, they're about the flag, that we're hoping it'll come across. But I agree. I think it'd be a beautiful way to come across to people. I also thought I wrote the first book actually in play form, and they really loved that. They thought it could be like a 1776 play. And so I've always, and the way that we've done like these book readings have always been in a play format. So I think it would be perfect, and it'd be very exciting. We could have new characters, and the kids are fun. They're cool. They're cool the way I was never cool, So they are so cool. They're so awesome.
Amazing.
It's true.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we'd like to. It definitely lends itself. Maybe when we get into more content, it'll just push itself that way, similar to the way it's pushed to here, because we would have never expected to be here.
On a podcast. We're with you. This is incredible.
Amazing. Last thing from myself, obviously, looking at the future of American politics and the presidency, the question I think we all need to ask, because there's rumors and these going around for years now, do you think that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will become president one day?
He was born in American Samoa, so he can be president. It is a Commonwealth. Absolutely. I think it'd be really cool. I think Arnold.
I think it's possible. I mean, it's
all joking aside.
I didn't realize that was a rumor.
No, but if Ronald Reagan in Bedtime for Bonzo with a monkey, which is one of the most popular chapters that we wrote with kids, could be president.
But I have to say that he actually does have some of the characteristics that we've been trying to promote. Even though I'm not sure that all of his screen time would be good for his.
But you know what? But all joking aside, you know, in every interview I've read about him, because I like him personally. Apparently, he's like it's not just for show. All the behind the scenes is that he's like a good guy. You know, he's like Tom Hanks. I'd like to see Tom Hanks as president.
Right.
I mean, it's like somebody.
So
apparently,
let's think of a good one. That's
yeah,
a good one.
no, I mean, but behind the scenes, you're right. Dwayne Johnson apparently is generous on screen with other people. He mentors younger people. I mean, that's really what you want. You know, you really do. All kidding aside, I know I have like no sense of humor. I know you said that as a joke, but I'm like, yeah. And not only that, but behind the scenes, he's a good guy. You're like, George, it was a joke, man. It was a joke.
I just love the fact that went from a joke to get to now The Rock has George's vote if he ever does.
Oh,
it.
he
It's
does,
great.
man. He does. I know, and you heard it here first, so we would love to meet you.
Mr. Stevens, do you have any more questions for our wonderful guest?
I do. I'd like to talk to Cleo
Thank
about
you,
her
Tom.
art, if that's okay.
Oh, yes.
You work in a different variety. I messed that up massively. You work in a variety of mediums. You do loads of different bits and pieces. You have figures, you have your political art, you have words, like we talked about earlier in the skateboards and stuff. Which one do you enjoy doing the most, or is it just a variety? You just love doing all of it?
Yeah, I like it all. It's because I mean, one, it goes to more the vibrancy of the medium than anything. I don't feel like there's a difference between the words versus figures or that type of thing. I think it has more to do that just I like something that makes, when you look at it, people said that they feel good. You know, there's a reaction to it is more important to me than necessarily anything else. And I think the colors bring that out, and that's why it kind of lends itself to pop art or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, I am not I've never taken an art class. This is all just self-taught. So it's and that's what comes out when I start thinking of it.
But you have a good eye. You have a good instinct about it, you know. And our the story, if I could jump in, when I first met the publishers, and I had a real rapport with Ken Simon. He was the sort of like the boutique editor. The creative director, Benjamin, he said, "What inspired you?" And I showed him the picture. I sent him the picture of the vote that Cleo had done. And he went apoplectic. He's like, "This is exactly what I love. I want this look. I want this look of Andy Warhol political pop. Can we get this artist? We are going to collaborate with this artist. You better know where this is, and this better not be copyrighted somewhere else." I said, "Oh, no. It's my wife, the artist Cleo." And he's like, "Are you joking?" And then their rapport was the same as my rapport with my publisher, my editor, Ken. And the collaboration that we've had together as a foursome has been remarkable. And it's unlike what they say with any other author, any other artist that they've had. Part of it is that we're lawyers, and we're very responsive. They send us edits. We get back to them, the same day.
But yeah, he liked the fact that it was in-house. And
it was in-house, absolutely. I know, it's fantastic.
But anyway, let him ask his other questions.
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry, Tom.
No, you're okay, George. I appreciate you apologizing, but you don't have to. It's
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can really teach art, can you? It's nothing you can be taught. It's just it's expressive. It's how it's whatever you bring to life is art. I could literally grab a piece of paper now and just draw whatever the hell I wanted, and realistically, that's my interpretation.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's some people say it's that expression, for example, so for some people it's language, some people it's it's drawing, and I've just always been very comfortable with the drawing and the visual, and trying to get people, pulling people in that way or impacting them that way, because if they look at it, they're like, well, why did you do it this way or that way? And it's like, well, the fact that you're asking questions about it is sufficient, right?
Absolutely.
Because you've looked at it closely enough that you've got something to say about it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
The cool thing is that for years I knew that Cynthia drew because I saw her cartoons when we were in law school, when her cartoons when she was in high school, and so I've always bought her artwork to just help her
Art books to
relax.
draw in.
Art books to draw in, all these pretty things, and she's been able to do it on and off. But it was when the iPad came out and she discovered the drawing app on it. She started to make vibrant artwork, and Benjamin has published it in the on her website that he created, and he's put all her old drawings from the iPad of all these figures, ballerinas, moving figures, and that moved to the pastels. And Cynthia did their first pastel. Really was the boat. And that's what inspired it. And then Benjamin said, can you do this? And can I have words? Can I have them in different colors? And Cleo was like, how many do you want? What colors do you want? And she produced them. But it's amazing that it was the iPad and that format that really inspired her right before COVID. And then during COVID, it's what she did in her downtime. And that inspired me. And that's why we're here.
There you have it.
There you have it. That's the history.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
It is.
Do you sell any of it, Cynthia? Because I thought the figures were really. I was having a look on the website earlier. The figures were really cool, but I really liked the political art with all the like you say about vibrant color stuff. Like stuff really stood out with the real thick black lines, and obviously it's just like reds and yellows and oranges. It was really like really in your face. It was quite impactful, actually. I thought.
Yeah. I'd be happy to sell it, but no. No. I mean, right now we've been mostly doing it with the book, so it's
okay.
In there. But mostly, honestly, I like to share it with my friends.
Yes.
So it's more of a it's a very personal way of giving a gift or something.
Yes. There's two things from that. One, Benjamin, the creative director, says, do not sell any original artwork. We're going to create a market, and she's going to be in a major gallery. Right now, she's major art gallery online. And so I appreciate that. Number two, Cynthia.
So maybe someday.
But Cleo's dream, there are some beautiful places in New Orleans, just a few blocks from where we live, where artists, really renowned artists, paint. They have a brownstone. They paint on the first floor, and then they hang their art in their own gallery. People come in, watch them paint, and these can be very, very pricey items, real beautiful modern art. And Cleo has always had this dream of having even a part-time shop where she has a gallery and paints, and I sit up front as we have a store called Walmart where everybody comes in, and there's like an old retired man in an orange vest, like a Walmart greeter saying, come on in, come and see the artist Cleo. That's her dream. So I'm confident that will happen someday. But right now it's just inspiring the books. I will tell you that many of our colleagues and friends have seen the work. And Cleo has done works for them that have been framed and given as lifetime gifts for their work as lawyers, as judges. So the work may not have been sold, but it's hanging in very precious places. So that means a lot to us. And then when we offered the sketch of the Capitol to the chief of police, and we said, can we have it produced for like the 186 officers that were hurt that day, injured that day? And he said, no, I want every officer to see it. And that's what Cynthia said. He put it on banners, and he put it in the 17, there are 10 precincts and 7 substations, and kids stations as well. And we went to all the presentations, all the officers signed it. They hung it up as you come in, the area where the police officers come to change their shift, their watch shifts, so everybody can see it and remember what happened that day and that they saved democracy. And that's really moving. So no, maybe we haven't created a market for a lot of things, but like I said, again, not to be Pollyannish, but we've touched a lot of lives, and that's really special too,
Which leads me to my final question.
Yes.
Did you ever think that when you began, with the artwork, with the writing, etc., that you would be here with an award-winning podcast, might I add?
Congratulations.
Two. Don't care what you say, Mom. Two.
Two books made, a third on the way, a third series on the way. Working with those fantastic people. Did you ever think that this is where you guys would end up being today?
No, I think this was not. It was a goal. It was something that we were provoked to try and put our voice in the mix. And that's, I think, when you do it with that kind of, I'll just use the word truth. That's these things come with that when you're really it's connected to you in that way.
Yeah, the inspiration almost was enough. Being able to do it was almost enough. I mean, at one point when we wrote the manuscript, and we thought it would be just a nice gift for our nieces and nephews, and I thought this is really a nice story, like nieces and nephews and all the kids and the young people that have read it really like it. And I pursued the publisher, but it was all by chance, but like Cynthia said, the inspiration was true. It was real. So I think that's what makes it work. I think if we had gone out to kind of engineer it, it would never have, we would not have had the passion for it, So it's a story of the heart,
Amazing.
Sorry, I'm the introspective one, I'm afraid.
No, it's amazing. It's an amazing story, and we can't encourage people out there enough to go check out what you guys do. But if people are watching this and want to go check that out, have you got any plugs, social medias, websites, anything you want people to go check out?
Yes. No, I mean
most importantly is we definitely want to bring this to the UK. And our understanding is we need to build on that distribution. So the publishers would be remiss. We would be remiss if we didn't want to bring this, because we don't think this is isolated. As we've been talking, the things we're talking about permeate wherever people living collectively, right? That's the but the beyond that, the books are on everything you can imagine, Amazon, that type of thing. The Audible has the books are read by, not only does Stephen do the podcast, but he read the books initially, and honestly, for somebody to bring the voices of 15 different presidents
and singing
he I mean, it's just fun to listen to. And then of course the podcast, the social contract, which is drops every first Saturday, is it?
Last Saturday of every month this year, right? It's my TSC podcast. It's the Social Contract podcast. The publishers created 2 websites. Mine is georgescorey.com, embarrassingly enough. And there's theartistcleo.com. We have the Social Podcast on Instagram.
That's probably enough.
That's
we're not on TikTok.
We're not on TikTok, no. But really, the My TSC podcast for Instagram, the 2 websites, and the fact that we have friends and colleagues in the UK and France, and they've had trouble downloading. So it's just it's really special that now it's available there, So because we've just sent them copies, to quite a few people.
And we really do have to say that as much as we've done and talked about with the publishers and bringing the content, Tavia has brought this to life.
Oh my God!
She has really been behind the scenes, and the voice to match is that she's really helped us kind of make this fulsome, holistic, whatever you. It's just like it's a different type of podcast, I think.
Yes,
so and that's really because of her.
And it said a lot about the credibility and the faith that the publishers had in us, that they not hired, but they partnered with the equivalent of a BAFTA award-winning podcaster and the equivalent of a BAFTA Tony Award-winning audio performer. That says a huge amount of the faith that they had in us, and the tenor that was created, the credibility is remarkable.
And there's more to come.
And there's more to come. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Incredible.
But I like your stay cozy.
I like stay cozy too. It's very cool.
Oh, thank you very much,
guys. This has been a huge honor. We had one newspaper interview us, and it was incredibly moving. So I can't tell you. This is something we'll always remember. I hope that the next time we come to London, you'll let us take you all out to the Ned or something for drinks, and we'll have a good time socially. But this was very moving. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah, this has
really
been absolutely
appreciate
fantastic.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you so much, guys. We'll let you know when this is out. We'll keep in touch, and yeah, we'd love to come and hang out when you're next over
We'd love
here. So
that.
please let us know. But
We will.
thank you so much for your time. I really
It was
appreciate
extraordinary.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Right, so
Thank
take
you
care of
very
yourselves,
much,
guys. See you
guys.
soon.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye bye.
What a glorious, glorious conversation. As I said at the start, so different to anything we've done before, but I think it was great. It really was. It was so informative. And I think it's important that, just because we as people doing this interview are not from America, it's important to know what is going on in the world, because let's be honest, they're the biggest freaking country in the world, and it's kind of nice to know what's going on over there.
They're not the biggest country in the world.
But I suppose I'm not in size.
No.
As established before, I'm not very good at geography.
It's all good. It's absolutely fine, Jinder. But George and the Artist Cleo, thank you so much for taking the time, like I said, to spend time with us. We absolutely love this guy. It took us out of our comfort zone, out of our remits, and got us, we were interested, we were intrigued by what was going on over there, and obviously being so close to the Capitol riots. And one other thing, George's publishers, please don't be angry. All right.
Yeah.
Please, it's fine. It's all good. We thoroughly enjoyed what he had to say about the brand new book that's coming out soon. But we really hope that you all enjoyed listening to it as much as we did recording it.